Hello, and welcome to a video where I'll be taking you through the Software Bureau's SwiftCleanse solution. SwiftCleanse can be used to clean databases using home mover data, so new address appending, deceased data, gone away data, and no mail request data such as the mailing preference service. The first thing I'll do is take you through some of the options on the form, starting top left with an option for starting a new project. So using this option will clear anything out that you've currently got set up and basically allow you to start a SwiftCleanse project from scratch with no data and no predefined parameters. The second button is used to open an existing project. So if I select that button now, it will take me to my library, and in my library, as you can see, I've got 4 templates, all for NatFirst Bank. And they are predefined project definition files containing all of the required parameters to run each particular project. The next button is Save. The Save Project button is used to save a project into the library we were just looking at. So if you create a new project and you're happy with it and you want to reuse it, you can use that button. And again, if I click the Save button, it'll show you the location where my other projects are stored, and you can store an additional one into that same library for reuse. The next button is Regenerate Reports. So for a project that you've previously processed and completed, you can go back into that, open the project, and then reproduce the reports generated during the original process. The next 2 buttons are about resources. So the first one is a resource update option, where you can check for any updates to reporting parameters, report style sheets, any small updates to the resources required to keep SwiftCleanse up to date. And the second button is for application updates. So if there's been a new version, an upgrade to SwiftCleanse, you can use that button to 1, look for it, and then 2, to action the particular update. And as you can see here, I've got a green tick, which tells me that I've already got the latest version of SwiftCleanse. Moving across the right-hand side, we've got a button for all of our default options. So if there are, for example, specific options that you would use on a regular basis, such as, let's say you always use deceased files only, then that option will enable you to preset those so that you can use them without having to select them each time. Next is our system settings. So that takes you through all of the various settings available for a SwiftCleanse user and change any that you wish to change. Information or about, that will provide you detail about the SwiftCleanse version you're on and how many days there are left on your license. And then finally, the help. Clicking that will open an online help portal where you can go through and read through all the various subjects to help you use SwiftCleanse more efficiently. Moving down to the middle section here, we've got 4 buttons. Starting on the left, we've got Configure Odbc Connection. So if I select that option, it shows you that we've got 3 Odbc options. We've got SQL Server, SQLite, and XML. So you can go and bring in data from any of those 3 particular database formats. We have Add Input, which I'll use in a moment. We've got Remove Selected File. So if you've got a file in your window down here, which we'll look at in a moment, that you want to remove, then you can select the file and use that button to remove it. And then a button for removing all files. So if you've imported a range of data files and you decide that you don't need any of them, then you can use that to remove them all. So let's use the Add Input button and go and import some data. Okay, so that's taken me to my default import folder, which is input data here. And you can see that I've got 2 data files. I've got Swift Demo Data 11K and Swift Demo Data 102K. So let's click on the 11K file and open that. So as you can see, that's now added it into my SwiftCleanse job, and we can now work through the wizard and define the field names and the format of this particular file. And to do that, we'll use this button on the left-hand side, magic wand, to open the wizard. Okay, so file format wizard for Swift Demo Data 11K. Now the first thing it does is it reports to the user what it thinks this file is, and as you can see there, it believes it's a delimited file, So it analyzes the data and reports back to the user that it's discovered that it's a delimited file. And if the formats, the columns rather, are all nicely formatted as you see here, then you can be perfectly confident that the format has been located and is all perfectly okay. So all we need to do here, if you're in agreement, is click Next. This window here shows you that, again, the software is analysing the data and is reporting back to the user that it's a comma delimited file with a field boundary or qualifier of double quotes. And again, because the data is nicely formatted, you can rest assured that the software has understood it correctly and it is indeed a comma delimited file. Okay, so again, all we need to do is click Next. We're now into the field names, field headers, and as you can see here on this column here, field name, that's an internal field name format. So what it's saying here, we're defaulting, because we don't know what we've got yet, we're defaulting it to F1 for field 1 down to F13. And on the right hand column, we've got TFS A1 to A9 and URN, and this tells us that the first row of data in this particular file is field headers, i.e. the ones we're looking at there. If it was straight into the data with no field headers, then you would see the actual live data in this area here rather than the field names. What we need to do now is tell SwiftCleanse that the first row is indeed field names. There's a couple of ways of doing that. First of all, you can just click this box here. That just tells the module that the first row is headers, and if you move forward, it will remove those from the top of the file, obviously allowing you to go straight into the data. However, rather than do that, if you select the Use Data button, not only does it identify the fact that the first row is field headers, but it also moves them over into our internal field names. So just repeating them, T, F, and S, A1 to A9, and URN. What that means is that when we move on to the next screen, we'll be able to show you how quickly and easy it is to map these fields. The other thing you can do in this window is you can scroll through the data. So just to confirm, if you like, that the appropriate field headers do actually match the data. So we've got T and we've got a title here, forename, we've got a forename here, a surname, and we've got a surname here. Okay, and you can do that for a number of records just to check that you're happy with the field names do actually match the data itself. Okay, so let's click Next. And that takes us to the field mapping. And going back to what we were previously talking about, using the field headers T, F, and S, and A1 to A9, because they're named in an obvious way, so T for title, F for forename, S for surname, address line 1, etc., then all we need to do is click on the Map All Official Address Fields button, and then the software will work out that T is title, F is forename, S is surname, A1 is address line 1, and so on and so forth. A field such as URN, of course, is not needed for SwiftCleanse to do its matching, so is ignored in the field mapping section. Okay, click Next. And this just confirms that you've got a title, a forename, and a surname rather than a name in one single field. So all you need to do there is just confirm and click Finish. We now have the thumbs up, as you can see here, which confirms that we've assigned the appropriate parameters to this file and we're ready to move on to the next stage. So down the bottom right hand side corner, there's a button called Next, so click that. And that takes us into the parameters section. And in here, you've got all of the various files that we can use to cleanse our data. So we've got the relocation files, we've got the deceased files, and we've got the movers and no mail request. So we'll go through those again in a moment. Moving up to the top, there are 3/4 ways of running your particular project. The first one is a health check. So using this option, all the software will do is will match against the various data sets that you've chosen and will report back the quantity of matches. So it will produce a report, but it won't provide you back with any data. And that includes the data that didn't match and, of course, the records that did. So all you'll get with that option is a report. Moving across here, you've got two options for job type. You've got suppress and you've got flag. With suppress, if you run with suppress as your option, then all you will get back from the processing is the data that did not match. So any records that did match will not get returned. You will only get those records that didn't match. And with the flag option set, this is why I said 3/4 options. You can run like this with flags, and that in this manner will provide you back with all of the data. So all the records that did not match plus all the records that did. So that way, obviously, you can then flag your database to say that a particular person has either moved or is deceased. The /4 option, of course, is this one here, flag hits only. With that box checked, all you'll get back as part of your processing is the flagged records, i.e. those records that matched any of the suppression files. You will not get back the net data, i.e. the ones that didn't match. Okay, so what we'll do first off, though, we'll run a health check. And what we'll do is we will do a health check on a couple of the deceased files. So let's check and choose mortar screen and TBR. And if you notice on the right hand side, they've moved across to our options here. And if you wanted to change the priority of those two files, then you just select the one you want to move, and then using these buttons you can just move it up above mortar screen. Okay. In the middle area here we have the forename matching settings. There are a number of options. So if I just drop the box down and we'll have a look at them, we've got loose, pragmatic, moderate, strict, and ultra strict. And this is all about how tight or loose you want to match the forenames. So for example, S. Dobson and Mr. Stephen Dobson, are they the same person or not? Obviously one record or one name has only got an S, the other one's got a title and a forename, but you can't guarantee necessarily that that's the correct match. So you might not want to match, and that'll be a sort of a loose setting. You might not want to match in that manner, or indeed you might not want to match ultra strict either, which is effectively an exact match solution. And you also have a surname only solution if you wanted to do that. The default is moderate. Obviously you can change that as appropriate. Okay, so we've selected our options. We can now click next. In this form here, you have a number of things that you need to attend to. First of all, the output format, we've said delimited by pipe in this instance, which is fine, but you can change that, of course, to comma, tab, or indeed any other delimiter. And you can also output to a fixed width file, an XML, SQLite, or SQL Server. You need to provide an output file name. Even if you're just running a health check, you need to complete this information. So I'll just put in NatFirst Bank as my output file name. We also need to set the client name, so who the job is being done for. So again, I'll just put NatFirst Bank, and then your job number or reference. We'll put in 1231343. Okay. The next thing you need to do is output or select which fields you want to output. Again, for a health check, you might think this isn't necessary, but you might go on from a health check to a live job. So probably best to set up your output as you require it to be in the first instance during the health check. So what I'll do is I'll select all of our original input data fields by using this Add All option here. And then under the System section, so you've got radio buttons for the types of field down the bottom. Under System, that provides you with all the various fields that you can output, including things like the suppress ID, i.e. which file did any particular file match against as part of the suppression processing, and you can select that as well using the single Add Selection button. So there we are, we have SwiftCleanse suppress ID and our original data field as part of our output. We can now click Next, and we can now run it by using the Generate Output button at the top left. Okay, to explain what's going on during the processing, on the right hand side you can see we've got a bit of information about the status of the processing, and you can see here we've got chunks, and what SwiftCleanse is doing is uploading chunks of data into our SwiftCore matching engine, which sits in a Microsoft Azure platform, So all the data files, all the suppression files, the home mover files are all held on Azure Microsoft platform, and the data is uploaded, the matching is done in the cloud, and then the results returned to SwiftCleanse. All the data is AES32 encrypted in transit, and only relevant information returned. So if you're doing a flagging exercise, for example, then only a URN is returned from SwiftCore, rather than any live name and address information. Obviously, in upload, we need to upload the name and address, otherwise we can't do any matching. But obviously it's encrypted as mentioned. But also on the way back, only the URN that we automatically apply, plus a flag to say which file is matched, is returned. As you can see on the right hand side, we've got 6 chunks. A chunk consists of a maximum of 2,000 records. So we've uploaded 6. At the moment we've downloaded 5. So we're nearly completed. And over here, just a little bit further down, it shows you how many records have matched so far. So at the moment we've got 240. And here it says it's waiting for 2 chunks from SwiftCleanse. Obviously the speed of processing is twofold. First of all, there's the speed of upload and download of the chunks, which is very dependent on obviously broadband speeds, but also of course the speed of processing in Microsoft Azure, which is very fast indeed. So high volumes can be processed in very good time. Okay, that has now finished. So on the right hand side again, you can see that we've sent 6 chunks up to SwiftCore, and we've now retrieved 6 chunks from SwiftCore, and we've suppressed 282 records. And if you look down in the bottom window, you can see that REAT has matched 157, MILM 125. And those are abbreviations for the data sets that we used. If you remember, we used TBR and mortar screen. So REAT is for Red Group TBR, and MILM is Millennium mortar screen. And as you can see, we've got 157 against TBR and 125 against mortar screen, totaling 282. Okay, we can have a look at the report. Which I will drag over from my other screen. And as you can see here, we've got our client, our job ID, the process, which was just a health check, the data sets used, when it was run, how long it took, and then how many matches against each of the files that we selected. So we've got TBR and mortar screen, and that just confirms what we're looking at in that window in terms of the matches found. Okay, so let's close that down. Okay, now if you wanted to run this live now, we run it in health check, if you remember. We can go back to parameters, uncheck the health check box, and then choose whether we want to run it as a suppression or as a flag. So what we'll do, we'll run it as a flag, and we'll do flag hits only. So if you remember, that will only return those records that matched either of the 2 deceased files that we're using. So click next again, the output parameters are all the same. Click next again and click generate output. Okay, that's finished, and what I'll do is I will show you the records that have been matched. I'll just drag that over from my other screen. And what you can see there is all the names and addresses, and on the right hand side you can see a flag. So in this case, this record has matched against Red Group TBR, this one against Millennium's mortar screen, and so on. So that's the flags that have been returned as part of our SwiftCleanse process. Okay, as mentioned earlier, this project could be saved. So I'll just click on the Save Project button here and give it our new project. Let's call it NatFirst Bank 1343 flag. Save that, and then that project can be reused in the future. And to show you how to do that, if we flip back to the Inputs section, and then go back to New Project, Open Project, you can see there we've got our flag one that we've just saved. Open that, and all the parameters that were set previously during the video are now still here as part of our new process that we've just restored from our library. Okay, many thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please call myself on 07899 910 533 or drop me an email, details to follow. Thank you very much for watching.